and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing really, really well. If you see a little nose appear at any point, it's because we have a guest for today's video. Today is going to be a video that I have thought about making for a really, really long time, but then kind of didn't, because I was like, there are so many videos out there about practice and how to do it, and you know, and how to be the most effective that you can possibly be, and like all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna make today's one a little bit more, it is about practice, obviously, hence the title, but it's gonna be a little bit more light-hearted, I guess, and the things that I actually do every time that I practice to sort of make it a more enjoyable experience, okay? Like, practice is not always fun. It isn't, but it's so important and it's something that we all have to do. So how can we actually make it fun? Kinda. So my first thing is to effectively bribe yourself to practice. Now, I do that by making myself a delicious coffee with far too much chocolate on top, and in this particular case, maple sugar. Tesco do like a vanilla sugar and it is just, oh, mwah. But I digress. Making myself a nice drink of something just instantly makes it feel a little bit more cozy, a little bit more, I'm just gonna sit down, I'm gonna have my coffee, I'm gonna do some practice, and we're all gonna have a lovely time. I really, really, really find this helps. I know it sounds super, super silly, but trust me on this. Or you could get yourself some kind of like little snack to help while you're practicing. Just make sure it isn't something that's going to make your fingers greasy. And, you know, just whatever works for you. Or, I mean, I know a lot of people say, right, if I do, you know, hour of practice, I can watch my favourite TV show. Whatever it might be. But I want to focus more on what can actually get you to your instrument, get you practicing. And for me, it's coffee. My second tip is to get yourself a metronome. Now, when I say get yourself one, if you Google metronome, a really good one comes up. So no excuses, practice with a metronome. This is something which I have known I should do since since my brother's teacher told him to practice with one, and I must have been 10-ish. Potentially younger. So I have known about doing this for a very, very long time, and I will be perfectly honest with you, it wasn't until post-college I had a lesson, and it was for an upcoming audition, and honestly it was quite an embarrassing lesson because I was just playing all sorts of different tempi in my concerto, and my teacher was very, very nice about it, but he was quite blunt about the fact that I wasn't keeping time, and basically asked me if I'd practiced it with a metronome, and I realised that I hadn't. And as somebody who was out in the profession by that point, that was very embarrassing. Practice with a metronome. I practice now. Every single time I practice, that metronome comes out, and I cannot tell you the difference it makes. You will learn things faster because you just, number one, it helps me kind of get in the mindset because this annoying little ticking thing is going off, and to be honest, I want to make it stop, so therefore I have to kind of crack on and get playing. But equally, it just keeps everything tight and together, and particularly when you're practicing things slowly in order to then increase the speed potentially, or hopefully, then it really, really helps with that because everything is even. If everything is exactly the same speed, it is so much easier to then notch that up and make it faster. Whereas if you're practicing something slowly and accurately in all other ways, but the tempi is just a little bit fluid, then when you bring that passage up to speed, those problems are going to get exponentially bigger. So just really, yeah, metronome, just do it. I know they're annoying, but just do it. My third practice technique is more one for when you're not really feeling it. Not like all of us, every single person on this planet has had days when they're like, I don't want to do it. We all have, I don't care who you are, you've had one of those days. Practice technique. And I know that sounds kind of dry and boring and very uninspirational, but I find when I really, really can't be bothered, I go back to basics. I'll sometimes even just get like a beginner book out just to give me some inspiration and just some ideas, because then you can just practice something that is basically easy, that you don't have to be super artistic, you don't have to think about the musical phrasing of it, you don't have to do all of that, because when you're not feeling inspired, those things are, I mean, they might come, but if you're anything like me, they won't. So I go back to technique. I practice scales, I practice articulations, I practice sort of finger exercises, I sort of do all the, did anybody else do the like little spider up the drain pipe thing with your bow? I know that's for kids, really, really useful exercise. Things like that, just go back to basics. Do things that don't require you to be super musical and artistic, and you will just find that you get into the groove of things so much easier. And even if you don't, it's never a bad thing to practice those things. So you will have done something productive, which is always nice. Tip number 4 is to minimize distractions. And now I almost didn't put this one in because I was like, everyone says that, turn off your phone, don't have the TV near you, blah, 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 blah. Now, minimizing distractions is a really, 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 really good piece of advice, but I actually get more distracted if I completely turn off my phone, because I then start worrying that I'm missing, like, I might be missing an emergency, or I might be missing a call from my diary about some work and they really need to get hold of me, and I actually find myself checking my phone more. So what I do is, if you have an iPhone, I'm so sorry Android users, I presume there's something like this available on your phone, but I'm not exactly sure. But if you have the iPhone, then you can basically, there's a setting on it called work, and you can adjust that and you can tailor it to what you want. So whenever I have work selected, all notifications are muted apart from calls from my husband and calls from my diary. Then I know that if either of those are trying to get hold of me, they can. So therefore I can just leave it, you know, face down away from me, but I know that if one of those people call me, then I can pick it up and it's all good. So I actually find that helps me focus more. So tailor this one to what works for you. I think some people need to, you know, shut themselves in a locked box with absolutely nothing but them, their instrument and their music. But for me, that doesn't work. That actually makes me more distracted and just a little bit on edge, which is maybe a problem that I need to work through. But so just do what works for you. I think I used to think that I had to, you know, turn off my phone, and that was the only way that you could ever get in the zone, you could ever focus properly, and, you know, all of these things. And that's just not true. Do what works for you. So that's why I wanted to put it in here, because I know that everybody says it because it's annoyingly true, but I just had a little bit of a caveat, so I hope that was helpful. And my tip number 5 is to not rush things. And by this, I mean, it is so much harder to relearn something than it is to just learn it correctly in the first place. I think this is definitely a bad habit that I fell into whilst I was at college, because you're under pressure to learn a lot of repertoire quickly. And obviously you're wanting to learn it to the best of your ability and all these things, but you want to get it, you know, ready for your lesson or the performance class or whatever it might be. And so that led to me basically learning music in a very surface level way. And whilst there is a time and a place for that, you know, if you get sent music, you've got a gig tomorrow, you just got to do what you can do. The temptation when you're in those circumstances can be to just kind of go in all guns blazing, you know, play it through a couple of times, kind of go, yeah, okay, that's fair enough, you know, that's good enough, whatever. And then you'll have your lesson, you'll work on it, you'll do all of your things, and then you'll come back to it and try and work on it in detail. And then you will find things so much more difficult because you will have already practiced in a few mistakes, and getting rid of those is just really hard work, and quite frankly ain't nobody got time for that. So this kind of ties in with the metronome point. Learn things slowly and in detail. Really look at what's on the page, make sure that you've got the rhythms absolutely spot on, especially make sure that you've got, you know, the articulation where you can, and make sure you've got all the right notes and all that. You know what I mean. But just really take your time. The less time you have to practice, I would argue almost the slower you need to go. And I know that can feel counterproductive, and particularly when you're stressed, it's really, really difficult to do. But trust me on this one, it will make such a difference, because you will learn it correctly from the off, which means you only really have to learn it once. Whereas if you learn it in a rush, then you'll have to relearn it slowly and more time. Tilly agrees with me. Don't you, done? And that's it. That's the end of this video. I hope it's been relatively short and sweet. So please do give this video a like if you have enjoyed it. It really, really helps support me and my channel, and subscribe if you are not already. It would be so, so good to have you. Let me know how you get on. If you have any practice tips that you feel like people don't talk about enough and maybe aren't obvious ones, then please do comment them down below. It just helps everybody out, and it's always so good to hear what other people do, because I get inspired by it as much as the next person. So yes, please do comment down below with any other practice tips that you have, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.